27th, 2025. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cerrone,
Here.
Mr. Gatewood,
Present.
Ms. Johnson,
Present.
Dr. Murillo,
Present.
Mr. Ploger,
Present.
Ms. Simonton,
Present.
Ms. Venmus,
Present.
and our student board members, Hope Rie
Present.
and Collie Parnell.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any?
Yeah.
Okay. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank the public for attending tonight's meeting. We value the feedback we receive from our members of the public and encourage everyone to take an active interest in their public school system. Residents interested in speaking to the board this evening are asked to have completed a comment card and presented it to the secretary to the board. When the secretary calls your name, I ask that you come to the microphone, state your name for the public record, and provide your feedback. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per person, and no responses to your questions are permitted. Comments should be addressed to the Board of Education as a whole and not be directed to an individual board member, audience, or staff member. The Board of Education will not address concerns against individual employees. Rather, a complaint against an employee must be in writing and signed by the person who makes it, and the Board of Education will refer any such complaint for appropriate review. Campaigning or advocating for any candidacy is prohibited according to state law, and comments should be limited to district business. Follow-up to your questions or concerns will be addressed by administration through the contact information provided on the comment card. Thank you.
Katie Hayden,
Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Hayden, engaged parent in the community and local member. I'm here tonight because I wanted to talk about an event that was hosted last week, College Information Night. I want to go ahead and thank Betty and Joe for putting together that event. It's for students with IEPs, 504s, and OHIs, where they could need a range of different services, either those that are gifted or needing testing accommodations or modifications to the curriculum. What I wanted to mention, though, was after Betty and Joe were done presenting, it then got handed off to the other presenters for the rest of the evening. One of the things that I would say as a parent that kind of you could see the disengagement after that was when they started talking about cumulative GPA scores managed for over the 4 years, having that 3.0 average, and an SAT score for 430 and higher. And then they also talked about that if you didn't meet those number guidelines, that was when placement testing would come into place for everyone. So as a parent and someone who has students with an IEP or a 504, there's nothing more discouraging when you're thinking about just community college or any form of college, and then to feel that there's already barriers there when it comes to numbers. I do feel like we could have done better highlighting vocational schools, licensing exams or certification courses. Different industries don't always require placement testing, so if students are already going to have to pay for additional credits moving forward, going into community college or traditional forms of education, we need to have those resources ready and presented to students so then they know how to bridge that gap and they don't feel that barrier when going into furthered education. So I'm hoping that maybe we could try to have an additional presentation night or, whatever you guys want to call it, to make sure that those students don't feel that weight on them when they're graduating, like, where do I go after this? So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. I want to welcome to join us Ann Cummings-Bogan, who serves as a lead consultant for ACB Consulting. This work really started, I want to say when I began here in the district, but I would say it actually goes a step behind that, which is that the board really had a vision for how do we become a district that really sticks to how it wants to plan in an organized and thoughtful way to get to success. And we know that a effective strategic plan can really help us get there. And Ann's role was really to come in and really partner around the vision, around collaboration. And Dr. Kincaid and Teresa Comaitis have really served as lead facilitators. But I would say that it's been the work of senior leaders, principals, directors, staff, students, families, and parents that are really making this strategic plan come to life. And the board's trust and engagement in this process has been overwhelmingly positive, and we're grateful for that trust. And I think that tonight you'll have a chance to hear some of the really powerful highlights that have started to come through in terms of the direction, affirming the direction we have started to go in, and pushing us to that next edge of growth. So I'll turn over to Dr. Kincaid to take lead.
So the purpose of our presentation tonight is to provide not only an update, but some information regarding our engagements. So our plan for February 24th is to bring forward our draft strategic plan, and we are on target for then bringing our final for approval on March 17th. So today we're going to focus on the information that we've collected from our community, our staff, our students, and we just wanted to give you highlights of how that information is shaping our plan as we get closer and closer to presenting our final plan. So as Dr. Kelgati mentioned, not only Teresa and myself, but we've been working hand in hand with Ann, and Ann's going to talk about what has been unique of our approach, not only working collectively, but seeking the input and information from our constituents.
Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Just to reiterate, my role is kind of the guide on the side and helping to support the overarching systems grounded in partnership and collaboration in Oswego School District 308. The strategic planning process is just another example of the way that the district has been moving over the last 18 months to engage diverse voices and really bring folks to the table to listen and learn to the system and be able to tell the system story. It's something I refer to all the time, so it's kind of cool that the strategic plan is about the story. Just underscoring, since I first met the board, we engaged in some exploration of this framework that I developed 4 years ago or so after about a decade of being out in the field and supporting school districts in just continuous improvement. And what I'm most excited about to just sort of endorse and underscore is that the way that the strategic planning process is unfolding is really not about building a plan that is not deeply integrated into the day-to-day work of the system. Can I just go back 1 second to that graphic? I just want to point out that there's two aspects of this framework that I think are important to highlight. The first being just that common vision and taking the time that you're going to learn about tonight to really hear from the system itself about what does success look like, what does excellence look like, and then the bottom of this framework that talks about accountability through shared commitments. So when we think about return on investment or what we're doing with our time, I really believe that the way that this process is uniquely unfolding with really it being led from an internal approach, not an outside entity. Again, my role is just to kind of come in and be a thought partner as to the process. So I just wanted to underscore that. The last point I'm going to make before handing it off to Teresa is again this image of the systems approach. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is that the impactful practices will take place in classrooms and in schools. And it's really the work of the strategic plan is being able to leverage the systems and the structures that have been being developed over the last 18 months to make sure that when we talk about high quality instruction, effective systems and teams, equity and rightful presence, that we're really seeing that implemented at the school level with students, with families, where it makes the greatest difference. So I'm excited about the process. I'm excited about the direction the district is headed, and I think hopefully you will be too as you continue to learn about the process. So thank you for allowing me to have a few minutes.
So as Dr. Kilgatti mentioned, our journey really started in the summer of 2023. Over the course of last school year, we came together to develop our strategic roadmap. From there, not only have we been implementing that plan, but then we went through an organizational and curriculum audit. We've been looking at our academic data and our 5 essential data. As we heard in our last board meeting, our panorama data. So we've been looking at not only some of our quantitative, but then also some of our qualitative information to really shape our strategic plan. So in terms of first, our step forward in our strategic plan, we wanted to make sure that we had a solid foundation to build our objectives. So in looking at that information, in conjunction with working with our district leadership team, where we have focused our work is through these 4 pillars. So looking at academic and student success, looking at our educational, our educational access and supportive environment, our partnership and collaboration, and our resource allocation. As we met with our different groups, what really came to the surface is the need to consider all of these elements in order to write a truly effective plan to implement not only with fidelity, but with longevity. That if we were not considering both what would lead to our student success, but then also what support, what collaboration, what professional learning, and what resources are necessary as part of that foundation, our priorities would not be successful. So using these 4 pillars, that's where we started to then bring in the information and feedback through our focus groups that Teresa will speak to and dive a little bit deeper in. But these 4 pillars will serve as our foundation as we build and explore our strategic plan.
Okay, so what made our process a little bit unique was, as Ann mentioned, really kind of working from the inside out. So we didn't want this to be a top-down approach. We didn't want this to be something that people couldn't see themselves in. So in order to do that, we set out on a journey to collect the voices of our students, of our staff, our parents, our alumni, our business leaders, in our community overall. So really framed in that idea that this is our story, and what that means for us writing the future together, that next chapter. So we're gonna play for you a short video. This video was played at the start of each of our focus groups, town halls, and is also included in the engagement package that we had for community conversations. So we're gonna kick it off with this.
Hello, SD308 students, families, staff, alumni, and community members. I'm Dr. Kilgatti, and I have the honor of serving as the superintendent of Oswego Community School District 308. Our schools are more than just buildings. They're places where dreams take place and take shape, where collaboration and support inspire growth, and where every student knows they belong. Each student, staff member, and experience adds to our story. We want to honor our past as we celebrate our accomplishments and aspire to a promising future. To ensure that we continue to thrive, we are developing a strategic plan, the next chapter in our story. This plan will set a common vision for our district, grounded in our core values. It will be student-centered and designed to achieve meaningful outcomes for every learner. But we need you. To make this plan truly impactful, we need your voice, more importantly. The perspectives of students, staff, and parents and alumni, community members, are vital in shaping a vision that reflects the diversity, strengths, and aspirations of our entire district. We have developed pillars of focus for this plan using findings from a comprehensive curriculum audit, our 5 essential surveys that many have completed over the last couple of years, assessment data, student performance data, climate data, as well as our master facilities plan that we are currently building. As we work together, we will refine this vision. We will identify priorities of what comes first, second, third, and we will develop objectives that will help us realize a promising tomorrow. Together, we are going to create a plan that reflects the success and the hopes that our schools deliver rigorous instruction, foster collaboration, and ensure that every student feels supported and prepared to succeed in the future. Your input matters. We thank you for your time, commitment on this journey to building a plan that is relevant and transformative for all. Thank you for being an essential part of this process and for helping us write the next chapter in our story.
Thank you for playing that. Again, guys, this was really kind of set the stage to the start of each of our in-person engagements, and it also was included in the package as we asked others to help to lead conversations throughout your own groups of staff members, neighbors, friends, students, etc. So we'll kind of walk you through some of our digital engagements first. This was a selection of quick questions, surveys, online polls. For those of you that answered quick questions, and there were thousands of them, we heard lots and lots of positive feedback in regards to that way of seeking feedback. This was really a single point, a quick, hey, what did you think about this, or what are your thoughts on that? And it only took a minute for people to complete, and students, hundreds of replies, parents, hundreds of replies, and fast. Like we'd send one, and then we'd sit in a meeting, and we're like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. I mean, the answers were really flowing in really quickly. And it was a great way for us to get a quick pulse or a temperature check on something. If we weren't sure that we, maybe had gotten it right, we could ask a question for clarification. Our surveys were really targeted both to business leaders. We had one that was distributed through all of the chambers of commerce that we are part of, and that one was asking specific questions around development of future staff members, what types of characteristics, trainings, things, as well as an invitation to ask them if they'd be interested in joining with the district to offer additional opportunities to students within their field. And then our polls were just really quick smiley face or star ratings around specific topics. It was just a way to engage people as they were on our story page of our website. So we'll walk you through some of that. Another unique thing that we did was these community conversations. There's 426 of them. There actually might be a couple higher now. What we did was built a set of 7 questions, and then we had a facilitation guide, and we did offer some training. We had a few people that wanted to participate in training before they hosted one. But essentially, this was a package deal that you could take to any staff meeting, home and school meeting, student clubs did it. It was actually a couple of the freshman seminar classes had their students engage with it, which is why you see that large percentage of participation from students up there, 320 students. It allowed for people to either submit as an individual or they could reply as their group. And they could choose to answer one question or all of the questions and provide us feedback. And I can tell you from this piece alone, there are hundreds and hundreds of pages of incredible qualitative feedback. People really took time to provide perspectives for us that really kind of carried through each of the different ways that we engaged with our community. So this was just one.
Teresa, if I could just build on that for a second, just to add that a number of, I received from principals direct feedback about these experiences where they did it at their PTO meetings in the evening with their staff, and just how impactful it was for them as leaders to be able to have these kinds of conversations, and how it will definitely have an impact on their work as they think about their school improvement plan within their school. So the learning will not only influence our learning and able to serve students in our schools better, but will also help them, and then building effective plans that are going to help them accelerate their school improvement plans. Dr. Kincaid?
And it was a great way to model collaboration and engagement at the school level. It kind of forced some of that in a way, but it was a great practice for them to learn how to engage and collaborate and have open discussions about topics that sometimes are difficult to discuss. Here's some just raw numbers for you of how people responded. Again, the quick questions were incredible. You see 2,850 responses up there, 917 of them being students. That was just emails. We had 86 poll responses, 109 business or community survey responses, 200 surveys from teachers, which we'll dive in a little deeper on, but that was a survey that was co-constructed with our union partners, both for teachers and a different one for support staff, and those are the responses. And that's another one where there are hundreds of pages of incredible qualitative feedback coming from within our system. And then the community conversations we talked about, and then our group attendance in person totaled about 89 individuals. We wanted you to know that it was very representative. So every zip code that we serve within our district had participated in some way in one of these outreach opportunities. We had, like I said, we had student, staff, families, alumni, grandparents, business leaders, current and recent grads. Just everybody showed up. Every level was included. Every school was included. So the voice really was across all of the community that we serve. So I'm going to take you into some points of feedback. Again, there is so much rich data that we have, and we'll put together kind of in a raw format if you really want to dig deep, but we want to share some highlights with you this evening. This one was really a cool question. So it asks students to think about a class or classes that made the most positive impact on their lives, and what was it about that class. This was the multiple choice type answer. They could select all that applied. First, obviously, the teacher was engaging, huge, and there was an opportunity for them to write some comments, and many students chose to write comments about their teacher and about how the impact of their experience in the classroom led to them feeling as though that the class was a positive experience for them. The topic, again, right up there, the way that they engaged in the class as far as hands-on learning. And I thought it was real interesting that the actual textbook workbook was 5%, because sometimes we get caught up in thinking, well, it's all about the resource, and the resource is an important component of it, but so much more about it is really the way that learning is delivered and the way that students are participating in their learning in their class, and that showed through heavily with this question. Here's another one from students. So, do you feel like you're part of a supportive community when you're at school? Overwhelmingly, yes. Again, there was an opportunity here for them to write comments, and I would say that most of the comments came in the areas where they did say no. And again, it's another learning opportunity for us. While it's exciting that, yes, the 72%, it also means that there's some work to do, that there's 28% that don't feel as though they're part of a supportive community, and that qualitative feedback that came along with it matched right in with the feedback that we heard from some of our in-person engagements. Here's another one for students. So we always talk about future ready, college or career readiness, things like that, but we kind of plan it as adults, and we don't always take that half step of going backwards and asking the students, what do you think you want to do when you grow up? So asking this we asked our junior high and high school students, thinking ahead, what are some things that you think you'd want to try, experience, or perhaps receive a certification or training in? Overwhelmingly, the STEM fields were there, but there was a high amount of medical and healthcare up there, law and public policy, trades, vocational, arts and creative, and then general career readiness. And I put some descriptions in there just for you to review as you go through this presentation in detail. This was another one that was really touching when we take a second and back away from just data. We asked parents and families to consider how they define achievement for their child in school. And you can see that class grades don't come into play until 6th grade on this list. And so often we're looking at, grades and standardized testing and, prep for college and all of those things, but so much of it is based foundationally in those younger grades around their students', self-satisfaction, sense of belonging. There were some comments in there around, opportunities to explore and kind of sparking the interest in learning, and again, all experiential on the way that they experience school, the way that they, make friends, the relationships, all of that, which we know is so central to that early part of childhood. But it really kind of came across here. And then if you follow that all the way through, even into our Pathways and Transition program, you can see here we're looking for students to be challenged, but also to walk away with those independent living skills. So another point of contact for us in building the plan. Here's where we asked parents and guardians, do you feel involved as a parent in your student's school? Overwhelmingly yes, but still a good number there of students feel no, but more importantly, we asked why and what were some opportunities there that they gave. And so under no, like opportunities, clear opportunities for working parents. How can they, if they can't be there present, in this space, what can they do? How can they donate? How are their specific needs? Opportunities to be in the classroom for those that feel like they are involved. Clear expectations, transparency, communication, all of those kind of things are just opportunities for improvement. This is the questions we asked to our business community, among several of them. But what are the skill sets you find most valuable as you're hiring for entry-level positions? And this was really the real world skills. So this is where we saw things come across about eye contact, carrying out a complete sentence, being able to write, being able to talk on the phone with someone. And what's interesting is we kind of heard the same feedback from parents when we were in our focus groups and we had the chance to talk with people face to face. When our digital era, as much as we put focus around technology, in some cases we've kind of lost that fundamental human interaction skills. So that was something that businesses felt was really lacking that we could be focused on for future hires in their world. And then they talked a little bit about what do you think, what assets could we really be focused on from the school side? And AI came up, technology, there's jobs that we don't even know exist today that we're trying to train students for, but also some of those fundamental skills around communication and teamwork. There was a community survey that was open on our website that had quite a few responses to it. And again, this was just an opportunity for anyone to come in and provide feedback. And this is just a summary around some of the open-ended responses. So asking about skills needed, we're seeing that STEM stuff there as well as some of those social skills pop up. The challenges, I think we'd all be in agreement. There's funding challenges, technology advancements. There's a few other things up there that are behavior related. There's the school culture, around diversity and, curricular representation, outreach, all of those types of things that we really talk about as far as our rightful presence goes. Defining our successful school district, we ask people, how would you define that? And some of it is rates, graduation rates and post-secondary plans, but also that strong school and community partnership, inclusive school environments, our staff training and support. And then there were just some open-ended questions raised, and again, we see transparency come up in here, and we see some of the behavior topics again. So this is where we got into the OEA and OESPA co-designed opportunities for feedback from our school staff. This was a list of 13 questions. The same 7 that were in the community conversations were also present, and then there were some additional questions that were really relevant only to staff members. And this is a very high-level summary of what is hundreds and hundreds of pages, and can attest to having read through many of them. But here's a summary for you on some of the key takeaways. So around academics, academic wellness, and student wellness, the resiliency, the common expectations, alignment. You can move forward. And then staff wellness. So staff want to be heard. Staff want to know that they're valued. We did hear over and over in this survey, as well as from staff who participated in our in-person engagements, that this process alone has really helped them to feel as though they have a place at the table, that we really truly mean we're out for collaboration and want to hear their voices. So we have a great opportunity here, sort of a turning point where staff are really on board, eager and excited to be part of something different. So we really wanted to honor that through this process. Again, this is just kind of we told everyone this is sort of step one. It's not a one and done. They're really going to be collaborating across this process as we move forward, not only development of the initial plan, but as we continue to refine the plan in response to our system's changing needs. I'm going to turn it back over to Ann to talk about our in-person engagements.
Yeah, so some of you participated in some of the focus groups. There were 6 focus groups that we conducted in person, and then we actually followed up with a couple virtual engagements last week. And the basic format of the meetings was to first ask participants what brought them to the town hall or to the focus group, because certainly everybody came with a perspective. It was great. There was great support from district personnel who sat at tables with students, with community members, and then not simply to be the resource, but to help facilitate and really put an ear to the ground. Because a lot of, obviously, what we're learning, and just listening to Teresa talk, you can tell there's a lot of information. Everything may not land in a strategic plan, but the system knows what's happening. The finger is on the pulse. So, and then this next slide just kind of gives you basically a visual framing of what some of those themes are. But what I would say in a nutshell is high regard for the staff in this district came through loud and clear. Really families that value the opportunities their children get in the district, but also particularly in the areas of gifted, special ed, multilingual learners, dual language, just really making sure there's clarity around academic programming, making sure that there's consistency across the system, making sure there's vertical alignment between levels, making sure that the staff is supported and in place. And so it was just great to allow open dialogue in the room and to generate the themes.
One thing that I wanted to underscore is that at the engagements, there was really strong support from each of the departments, from principals. I think this was mentioned, but I just want to underscore just that this would not have been possible without the departmental equity engagement and student services and L&I and multilingual services. I mean, everybody showed up. And principals showed up, assistant principals showed up. Like, it made a difference. So if you're a parent or you're a student, you were having this really 3-dimensional conversation about the topic.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a one-sided view of the experience. We had alumni students showing up. Mm-hmm. So I just think it created this, like I said, a 3D experience on the topic. And that became very powerful. I think it catapulted for a lot of us this shift of like, whose story is this? This is really the community story that started to emerge, and really people pushed and challenged, and I was grateful that there were, I don't want to say the word dissenting, but there was dissenting voices. Mm-hmm. People didn't always agree, and I think that tells you a lot about the health of the space.
I also want to make sure we highlight that Spanish translation was available at all the meetings, and that was one of the reasons we scheduled a follow-up virtual engagement, was because the BPAC president requested, and so we had a session last week at 6 o'clock in the evening. Yep. So I just want to underscore
that. And the video was also in Spanish, and all of the facilitation guides for the community conversations and the questions were available in Spanish as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kincaid.
Yep. So the information that we have learned, read, heard from has really been integral in shaping our strategic plan. So the feedback drove then the creation of our 5 priorities. So those were the themes that you saw across the information that Teresa just provided. So the strategic plan is going to be shaped around 5 priorities of future ready, systems of support, academic, wellness, both students and staff, and then systems management. So the goal then is to really work on intentionally aligning the connection and support between our strategic plan, so our district improvement plan, and our school improvement plan. So through the work, and we have with us today, Dr. Toya Pryor has been leading a group of individuals about our portrait of a well-rounded learner. She will also be joining us next month to provide more information regarding that, not only the process, but the information and those attributes. But with that leading the lens of our work, focused on foundationally the pillars, what we are now working on is objectives in each of those 5 priority areas. So we will be bringing in February then a priority plan, so objectives in each of those 5 areas aligned to the 4 pillars. So you will see priority plans with clear objectives that will be measurable year to year. The strategic plan will be a 3-year strategic plan, but using the information that we've collected is really what we're going to be working on then over the next month to continue to refine not only the prioritization, but those objectives year to year. We've been working through our district leadership team that has members of OEA, OESPA, our building leaders, and our district leaders. And as Teresa mentioned, we will have an appendix of all of the hundreds of pages of data available for you all towards the end of the week. So as you can see, really the not only aligning our portrait, our strategic plan, but then also connected to, and you'll see those strands within our strategic plan to our school improvement plan, which is built on our 3 foundational practices of our effective systems and team, our equity and rightful presence, and our high quality instruction. So all of our schools have goals around those 3 foundational practices. And we want to make sure that that's embedded throughout our district strategic plan.
Heather, can I add one thing?
Yep.
So while this is kind of the nuts and bolts of the structure, we do want to assure you that kind of that feeling that we kicked it off with in the story and the voices that we collected, that's really what the forward-facing document is going to look like. This is going to be presented as a story, as our story, and the next chapter, so people understand and can see themselves and how, you know, the community, our staff, our students, everyone plays a part in this and has a very clear role in what the next 3 years will look like. So this is kind of our back end of it, but we want to assure you we have an incredible video we've been working on. We went into over 100 classrooms and spaces across the district and gathered some really neat footage to be able to showcase our story from the perspective of our students and their classroom experiences. So we'll be able to run that alongside of the public-facing document that we really do. We don't want it to be a graphic that gets hung on the wall. We really want it to be a collection of objectives, of, you know, things that we're going to do to really transform who we want to be, and that's really led by the voices we collected throughout this engagement process. So,
Are there any questions that we could address?
I'm just amazed at the amount of work that's gone into this, and I know you've put in a tremendous amount of work, but you made a comment to me about some cost savings that were as a result of this, and a couple people that are here, if you don't mind commenting on that.
Sure. Yeah, I can just turn it over to them. But we had gotten into a conversation. So again, the strategic planning process is something I'm supporting, but I wasn't hired to write a strategic plan for your district. And so there were some phone calls with some agencies just to find out what it would take to mine some data. And there was one estimate that was about $65,000 that I think just there was a reaction that said, I think we can figure out a way to tell our story. And so I would say the team kicked into gear. And again, I'm certainly obviously a consultant that is hired by the district, but as you can just see by the way the data is being shared, this story is being developed and is being told by the system itself. And so I don't think this strategic planning process is going to end when you get the plan. I think it's actually going to be the beginning of your process. And I think all these things that we're learning and all these things that people are expressing are just going to continue to add to the system. I will say the question about collaboration, when, I think, when you read those responses, do teachers feel that they own and are included in the school improvement process? And out of the 100, it's close to 200, I think it was like 178 responses, a little more than half say yes, that they feel ownership in the school improvement process because of their opportunity to serve in a leadership, on their school leadership teams. And this survey was issued through the teachers union. So it just really starts to, again, from my perspective, somebody who's out in the field doing this work all the time, the ownership of your priorities and the 3 foundational practices are really being felt in the system. And you're only 18 months in. So see what this roadmap will do for you, this plan will do for you, again, every year. It's really, really exciting. So yes, I do really think that's what makes it unique. And that's where the return on investment is. If we don't have a shared vision, then we can't be accountable to the vision. We can't be accountable to something we don't know or understand. Mm-hmm. And so that's the power of this process that I'm so excited about.
So I know that there was, wow, that was loud. I know that there was a whole team involved, but specifically Heather and Teresa, thank you for stepping up and saving us, potentially sending this out to a third party for a lot of reasons. Number one, we saved $66,000, but secondly, I don't think a third party representative would be able to get to the level of detail and be able to relate it back to the district quite like somebody internally could. So thank you again to the both of you and to everybody else that participated. I know you are two of a team, so thanks to everybody.
It was really fun. We learned a lot.
I was going to add on, like one of my comments was, I think the other return on investment is when you do it yourself, you learn more about how to do things like this, about how to tell stories. And like you were talking, I think Dr. Kilgatti talked about principals being in the room and saying, oh, they've kind of learned how to do these community conversations and found some real value in it. So we, bonus, got some added professional development out of it too as well. I had just a couple other comments, but thank you for this update, and I know it's a lot of hard work and such great data to have for so many things. I appreciate that data is a starting point for these conversations, and I'm glad we collected so much qualitative data to kind of inform some of the multiple like pick a response thing. And I think also, like when you talk about, is the teacher engaging, is one of the aspects that students are choosing is why they enjoyed the class. I forget the exact question. Well, that's something I would want to dig into. Like, what is engaging for you? And that can impact a lot of, other conversations. Same thing with, like, do you feel like you're a supportive part of, I can't read my own handwriting, but you're in a supportive, community. I think it was like 70-30, 70 yes, 30 no. Well, that's something else I want to dig into. What's the 30, what's saying yes? I think we could probably say what makes people say yes, but why the no? And I also think like this data can live, like it's a living strategic plan. That's my view of a quality strategic plan, is that's a living document. So as you're living it and we're putting it together and we're going through the objectives, you can also go back to all that data and say, what were we thinking when we put this down? Is it really in line? Is it working? Is it not? Is there something else we want to add because we've moved, quicker than anticipated, and things like that. And I really appreciate also the last comment I'll make is that I've been a part of many strategic plan things in workplaces. And they do often like end up on a wall as a graphic, and so I feel like I'm trained in that way too. I'm like, okay, how are we going to put this here? Where are we going to put this here? Is this going to be the base? Where do the lines go? You know what I mean? And as I was thinking about that, you said something, Teresa, like this is not, it's not a graphic that's just go on a wall. It's a collection of voices or stories. And I think it's a really nice way to think about a strategic plan, and it's different. So I'm excited about thinking about that differently. And I'm also excited about getting the update on the learner attributes. I think that'll be another good point. So those are all just comments, no questions. Thank you.
Actually, to branch on the comments, Amy, that you just made, we initially started to look at the objectives under the 4 pillars. And as we heard more and more and looked at the data incoming and attended the focus groups and heard, we actually inverted the entire structure of our plan, because what we were continuing to see.
This was a very dramatic moment. I just have to
It was.
tell you.
Lots of chart
'Cause
paper.
The feedback was like messing up the team had a plan. It was like, wait a minute.
It very much did, like,
We were like, Dr. King was like, oh, we have to flip this. Yeah.
so we literally rebuilt the structure of the plan in the middle of the plan.
That's great.
Because what we were hearing over and over from our staff, from our community, even, from our leaders, is that if we did not have all 4 pillars thoughtfully integrated within the plan, there was siloed work, there was siloed discussion. So hence why we now are using our pillars as foundation for those priorities to ensure that the conversations happen across staffing, budgeting, planning, implementation, because we want to ensure effective implementation and longevity. So no, we were well down the road and then decided to U-turn in a different direction to ensure really strength within the plan.
So how many times have any of us, all of us, worked in places and in organizations where even if you had seen the data, you would have still pushed ahead because no, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to do it. And so I just love the fact that all of us sitting here on this board, we wanted to see the cultural change. And that's what is happening here. I can see it in your faces. Yeah. I see it in your work. I see the smiles on your faces. You use the word fun.
It was?
I mean, it's like when you can take.
She also used the word tired the other day.
It was a long week, the first week of January.
Yeah. But you know what? When you're doing something that you believe in, when you believe that you are doing work that has purpose and meaning, you are going, it doesn't matter if you're tired, you're going to do it, you're going to have a smile on your face, and you're going to love coming to work every day. And that's what we wanted for all of you, for every one of our staff members, for all of our students, and we're going to see it happen. And I can't even begin to tell you, because you guys use words like excited. Like when I'm in my Wednesday meetings with Dr. Kelgati and I'm looking in your faces and I am just so pleased with how you guys show up every day. And you were showing up before, but I saw you were just exhausted.
But it was also the pushing that you talked about and having that cultural shift where you guys were pushing, but you know that you weren't, it wasn't the fact that you were able to say, we're going to flip this on its lid.
Oh my God.
And is the cultural change.
Right. Yes. And
the fact that you felt empowered to do that.
Yeah. Empowered to do it, right? Instead of just going forward and knowing that you're just doing something that may not at the end of the day work. But
and I can also share that Dr. Kincaid came to, I believe, each one of the committee meetings. On our Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, we gave her a lot of heartache over these 4, and we're like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And behind this, and as someone who has been through a strategic planning initiative in another school district, to try to distill and encapsulate on a chart like this almost denigrates all the work that's gone behind this. But what I think we will get to see is that over time, what really holds up all of those pillars. There is so much more behind it. And even though we pushed and we tried to change them, there is, what I was so impressed with seeing is there is so much intention behind each of these pillars and what holds those pillars up for the pillars to hold the plan up. So I wanted to say that. I also wanted to touch on something Dr. Murillo said about how do you keep a strategic plan dynamic? How do you keep it living and working and making sure that we can adapt as needed? And what I've seen throughout these stages that Dr. Kincaid has given us is that we do have that plan. When you don't have those pillars, that foundation, anything will rattle you. When you have that foundation, nothing will rattle you because you know that it's adaptive and dynamic to those things. So I'm very excited about that. I also just wanted to share that, and I don't know how this is going to come out, so just give me a second to let my ADH brain figure this out. One of the things that was happening when I first came on the board, and I think Eugene and LaTanya will be able to attest to this, we made a lot of reactionary decisions with the data that we had available to us. It was to nobody's fault. It was just the way that it was at the time. And what I have seen happen in the last 18 months, and don't get me wrong, I'm a strategic planning nerd. This is like my jam. But what also I have seen is that you don't have the cultural shift. You don't actually do the real work. And that real work means some of it doesn't feel good. Some of it's uncomfortable. You hear things you don't want to hear. Sometimes you get defensive and you're like, yes, we do that. Don't say we don't do that. But it is that opportunity to reflect and to know that you're in a safe space to say, yeah, we have a lot of work to do, or, you know, we're doing this well, but we're really not doing this well. And I think a lot of our responses show where we have work to do. I think our student ambassadors are working hard on some of those areas around trust between adults and students. But to have a board that makes decisions about student improvement plans and curriculum and strategic plans and master facilities plans, we would not have been able to do this without the fortitude at the beginning when we brought Dr. Kelgadi on to say, there's no possible way all this work can get done with our current staff. It was a skeleton. And our administrators and our directors and our principals were literally working around the clock. And so I think, and I hope, Dr. Kelgadi, you felt empowered to put a organizational structure together that allowed for this expansion and this growth and this reflection. And, I get very emotional. You looked at people and you said, we've known each other for 3 months. I trust that you're going to go do this work, and I trust that you're going to do it intentionally, and you truly empowered your people. My question, though, comes, and I don't mean this to rattle anyone, because it shouldn't. It should be really positive, but you put a structure in place, and now you have so much data. Do you foresee, with all this feedback, maybe a change in your organizational structure, and do you see possibly, making sure that we have the right, I always use the bus analogy, the right people on the right bus and the right seats with the right driver. Do you see that maybe expanding, changing in the future?
That's a great
And I'm putting you on the spot if you can't answer that right now.
I can give a comment, and I'm sure Dr. Zorpke, if you want to add to it, but because I would say that it was really a team effort to think about the organizational design. That was a result of the 100 days that the board charged me with. So really the board said, hey, come in, listen, learn, see what's going on, tell us what do you think. And as a result of that, the thing that emerged the most is at that point, we needed people.
Yeah.
Not only that, we needed people to know and to understand that the value of their work was valued and that they were going to be invested here. So that's one. And so it's a good question. And absolutely, I think organizations become too fixed on, we have an organizational structure and we're going to stay this way. So we are listening to our principals and our staff, and they're saying, you've got more people to do what you've got to do to help us, but we're not yet always feeling it yet. And so we've got to work, continuous improvement, right? We always, either we're winning or we're learning from our mistakes, right? I messed up that quote, but I would say that the goal here, to your point, is what I love is that the strategic plan will help our system make thoughtful decisions about where people are staffed, and are the departments set up in a way to be most successful. We have a schools department, we have a student services department, we have a full department of multilingual services, and thinking about our various students' needs. Are we able to work well in a well-oiled way to then support our schools? So, Dr. Kincaid, did you want to add anything to that, or because I know you and I spent a lot of time as well.
Yeah. You know, the conversations we've been having is then based on our priorities, what would be a way to bridge the support provided not only within the district but within the schools. So that is conversations that we are having, just to make sure that we have the right supports in alignment with our priorities. We've seen some shifts not only this year, but with our strategic plan needing to potentially have more shifts, just in structure and in partnership. So how are we even, Dr. Waller and Teresa and I have talked about, and different cadres of how do we even reorganize who is working together aligned to the priorities. So those are some of the conversations that we're having in conjunction with the plan.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that. And I just had one question. Can we go to the slide where it shows the number of responses? I do have, and if you could tell me if maybe I'm reading it wrong, but when it comes to quick responses and how the community responded, are these in alignment with what we've seen with other school districts? Because to me, they feel a little low. But maybe I'm not, like when I look at quick questions for the community or community feedback, knowing that we have a community of 37,000 people, am I misunderstanding? Am I not representing the data properly?
So I think what is different about this is one, it was an internal process, and so we didn't cold call, communities and ask questions. Additionally, our engagements were a mix, and so the community conversation feedback, the 426 right there, could have been a group of 40 community members and one response that
Okay.
came in.
Okay.
And we tried to weave our findings in with already existing structures. So things like our superintendent advisory group has
Right.
done work around this, and we actually called a special meeting with them after our initial draft is formed to again bring it back to the people that are there. And as a reminder, that is educators, parents, and leaders from each building across the district. So it's a great three-dimensional viewpoint as well. So I think it was different. It may not have the sheer numbers, but I can tell you the quality of the engagement and the people that were invested, whether it was a senior citizen giving us feedback on, property value impact, or we were talking about, students and what their experience in the classroom felt like, or the teachers. I've run the last couple of surveys that we did with our staff, our climate and culture surveys, and the heart behind the answers in these questions I have never seen before. So I think the fact that it wasn't a third-party company just sending out a survey or making a cold phone call. It was really conversations that were held, or questions that were so specific that they were able to provide feedback. It was a different level of response for us. And what was reassuring is across all of these, across hundreds and hundreds of pages, there really weren't too many outliers. The common themes that you saw in that word bubble, collaboration, alignment, all those kind of things, they crossed all levels, all engagements. It, to me, was less about the data and the numbers and more about the description, the feeling, which
lends itself to the fact that we're trying to frame this as a story with the next chapter, right? So it's more narrative. It's more of that. So yes, I think our numbers are down a little bit, but compared to some of our surveys where we've had high numbers but not the qualitative feedback,
Yeah.
I think we learned a lot more this way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, really looking at not only the objectives, so what we're looking to accomplish in the priorities, but also through the lens of our portrait. So what are those attributes that we want our students to experience throughout this time? Dr. Pryor, is there anything that you would like to add at this time about our portrait? It's okay.
More to come, right?
Pass the mic. Pass the mic. Oh.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I will say we are almost done with the attributes for Portrait of a Well-Rounded Learner. We have one attribute that we are still trying to finesse. One of the big things about Portrait of a Learner is for all of our students to be able to see themselves in the attributes. So one of them was an emotionally attuned individual. And so a third grader would have a difficult time seeing themselves in an attuned individual. But we do have 5 attributes. We do have a graphic. We will present that at some point. But we developed a task force this year that included OEA members, building level administrators, district level administrators from every department. We've run the questions through the various focus groups, of course, SSAC, SAG, and various other groups in order to gain feedback, because what's important when it comes to this is the crux of our work is students. And so how do we build a system where we understand that the crux is students and what is best for students, and not just one student or one group, each and every student, and they need to be able to see themselves in the Portrait of a Well-Rounded Learner. We landed on well-rounded because what the conversations, very deep conversations. So what I will say is we focused on quality and depth and going deep in these conversations in various groups and really honing in and what does it look like for each and every learner for whatever future ready looks like. Some students are college bound, some are not. Some are going to be astronauts, some are going to be entrepreneurs. We don't know what's next, but at the end of the day, we're charged with being sure that we support all of our learners. So we've had very, very, very deep, very thoughtful conversations of what it looks like for each and every student, and still more to come. We have a little bit more work to do, but it's going really, really well, and it's been just a pleasure to lead the task force and collaborate across the district with so many people who you can see the joy is about what is best for our scholars. So it's fun. I loved it. I'm appreciative of the work, but we still have a little bit more to go.
Yep.
Just to confirm, you, I know that task force has brought opportunities for feedback from both the superintendent's advisory group as well as the public forum. Was there any other, what am I missing other sessions where
Feedback was gathered?
around with the Portrait of a Learner?
Yep, so we started with, maybe I should go all the way back to last year. So the conversation began last year, asking questions in SAG, asking questions in board forums. That information was then given to K-12 Innovate. Our task force was charged with how do we refine these 33 pages. It was about 100 pages. 33 was Portrait of a Learner, and then it was 33 for Portrait of an Educator, and then it was 33 for Portrait of a Leader. Our task this year was to focus on Portrait of a Learner because that's the crux of our work. But then it went out even more to different groups because we refined those 33 pages to what are the themes that are rising. And so as we took those themes and broke them down and came to the 5 attributes, we began to push it out a little bit more with district level administration, with student groups, with teacher groups, and we still will continue to do that, because as we have received feedback in those focus groups, then we tailor the questions a little bit more, because at this point it's starting to get a little bit redundant, but we still want to continue to provide those opportunities to say what is missed, because we have the 5 attributes, but then we will define those 5 attributes.
Great.
So it's not just a couple words, it is, this is what we mean, and then these are the definitions that accompany that.
Thank you, Dr. Pryor.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What our portrait has done is really allowed us to do the work and focus on future ready, expanding beyond the typical just high school and preparing. It really is looking at what skills are needed as you enter even back at age 3 through the system, as we're really preparing for each step along the way. So.
And the portrait is a unique opportunity for us, as Dr. Pryor mentioned. We're still reaching back out. We're using some of the same effective strategies. So our quick question surveys, our digital engagements, our existing meeting groups, like we're continuing this work so that it doesn't feel like the strategic plan was this one thing and the portrait of a learner is this thing over here, and then the school improvement plan is this thing over here. We've been very intentional around building them as one plan, and everything is impacting and influencing the others, and we continue to do the work in that continued collaboration and engagement with our community, I think, is really what sets this plan apart.
I have a few just comments. We can go to 13. Try to organize my thoughts a little bit. What I notice here is 5% textbook, workbook, worksheets. It just kind of goes to show that differentiated learning is real. Some people want to do textbook, workbooks, and worksheets. Page 17, there was a yes to engaged versus, or involved versus not involved. So the results are going to be generally the people that are involved, and the fact that we had 29% that are not involved, I guess, is good, but that's probably underrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure that we're,
Mm-hmm.
that's a very important group because we want to get them engaged. And then the last one was 25. And all that was just kind of a reminder to our board, that when it comes to resource allocation, that we want to make sure that we're consistent, that we are budgeting appropriately to satisfy these goals and not shortchanging our students, and our staff. And then one of the themes that you had throughout this conversation is, and the first thing I had written down was, I have personally seen this evolve based on the feedback. Mm-hmm. So I said that, I wrote that down before we even saw this. So it's true. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. So, and I appreciate that. So.
I have a comment, if you can go back to slide 13, please. It's actually bouncing off of your idea, Mr. Crone, about students with textbook, workbook, and worksheets. How I kind of interpreted this data with that 5% is that sometimes teachers that are handing out these textbook, workbook, and worksheets actually don't really communicate with their students. They kind of just expect them to do it on their own. It's kind of a lecture, and then here's a worksheet, get it done, turn it into me. And so that's why you see that 39% of the teachers were engaging, is because half of the time, instead of giving those textbook, workbook, and worksheets, they replace it with like an engaging activity in class or having those open-ended conversations. But I feel like a teacher can be engaging with textbook and workbook and worksheets, but sometimes that kind of flops the other way, and they kind of use that as a replacement to have some open-ended conversations with their students. And that's why the teacher was engaging, is kind of at that 39%, and then you have that 5% with textbook and workbook and worksheets. That's just like a student perspective of what I've seen, because I've had teachers that are very textbook and workbook and worksheet heavy, and they usually don't like have open-ended conversations with us. It's kind of more of a, here's the worksheet, like, ask me any questions if you have any, but like, they don't really engage us with like maybe videos or talk to us in depth about what we're learning. So maybe that's where that comes from. That's how I interpret.
I'm not
that
huge
data.
on worksheets. but that's just me. That was the point.
You know, though, it's very interesting that you said that, because last year on our student advisory committee, we had a student that shared with us that they were in a math class and all of the students were going to drop the class. They said it wasn't working. It was a lecture-based math class, and they were all just sitting there like with clouds in their eyes. And it was such a great opportunity for them to use their student voice. And together, they went to the teacher and said, this isn't working for us. And it enabled for that teacher to say, okay, what would work and how can we make this work together? So I hope that the fact that you called that out and that you see that in there, I hope that you can engage with your with your friends and your classmates and continue to show that this can work, that you can be the director of your learning and make those changes. A teacher's only going to do what they know how to do until someone says this isn't working for us. And so I love that you pointed that out, and I love students that feel that they can go to a trusted adult and say, hey, this isn't working. If there's 12 of us in this class and we all want to drop it, what can we do? And instead of them all dropping it, they work together. And that is what we're trying to get, I think, student voice and collaboration to the point in this district where you do feel like you own your learning.
I'll just say I really like it because it shows the different styles of each student and how different people like different teaching styles and how it works best for them. But again, at the end of the day, the 39% shows that I love when my teacher engages with me. And I really think that's such a positive point that that students love when they communicate with the teacher, and they love when you're able to talk to them, ask them questions. And again, when they don't like it, they feel responsible and like they feel respected enough to go to them and say, hey, can you change it? Like, I'm interested in the topic, 32%, but I want to learn more. And again, the textbooks, the workbooks, and the worksheets may not be working for me. And going back to where our plan is to increase the relationship, I really feel that having a better bond with your teacher can help the teacher evaluate their teaching style and alternate it in different ways so that the student learns more and increases their relationship.
And to jump off of exactly what Callie talked about, the topic interests you, but you have that higher of the teacher was engaging. I just want to point out it's never what the teacher is teaching that's a problem, it's how you present it to a student. And I remember last year I was a PE leader. In the first semester we were getting taught on how to engage with the sophomore class, how to bring different subjects, and we were given tasks of like basically having a PE activity. And the thing that was at the top is charisma. When a teacher has charisma, when they're bringing that topic in a lighter note, the kids want to learn more about that. So they have an interest in the topic. I'd be more concerned if the topic didn't even interest students. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that we have that 32% compared to that 39%. People are interested, students are interested, but it goes short that little distance between 32 and 39. It's that charisma that just changes it. How are we presenting that lecture to the student? How are we presenting our teaching style? So maybe having conversations, and even me and Callie having conversations with our own teachers about, having charisma, making, math sound fun, yes, 2 + 2, like, yes, like, let's do it. Like, sometimes I feel like teachers just lack that charisma, but I'm really happy with the data and what you guys are doing. I'm very proud. This takes a lot of work. It's not an easy task, so I'm very thankful for you guys and what you're doing.
And I feel like this also goes along with what we talked about last week about self-efficacy. And it really shows that, okay, 39%, 32%, how can we make it grow in the future? If it's showing that they like when teachers engage and they like when the topic interests them, how can we make it so it grows so the students can believe in themselves that they can grow? How can we make it so this number can grow and really just have a good perspective, like how things,
Dr. Zwemke, I think you want to hand them applications for teaching
right?
for a couple of years from now.
Right now.
I think you're ready to recruit them.
In this
Signing bonuses after the board meeting.
Dr. Zwemke in 308.
Yeah.
Applications for 308.
Hope has graduated, so
there you
she's ready.
Here we go.
Let's go. I have one comment on slide 25. I was going to comment in one word, and my one word is comprehensive, But here's what I appreciate about this. I've stared at this slide for days, and I had one question. No, you answered it. I had one question, but the bottom right-hand little graphic answered my question. And so here's what I appreciate, is it's so comprehensive. And in the past, our practices have not aligned with our strategy. And it's created a rub in the between the district and the buildings. And the comprehensiveness that I see, and even the evolution of the plan, and then even you saying that the objectives will come off of the priorities, all of the dots connected. And so I just appreciate the intentionality behind it, and you all taking the time to ensure that how we implement this is just as important as coming up with it. And I think that's an intentionality that we have missed in the past. Therefore, we have had strategic plans, but there was a difference between the practical side of it and the development of it. And so I just wanted to say great job in taking the time to do it.
And Mr. Gatewood, that came across in some of the feedback. As we were kind of digging in deep today, we sat with all of the feedback and made sure, looking through the objectives again, making sure there wasn't anything that wasn't in the draft objectives that came from our feedback, and reading some of that directly today, I think our teachers felt that. They were asked to sit on committees in the past and evaluate resources or develop things, and it was all really great work, and it was all kind of centered in that number one pillar up there around the academics piece. But unless you took the step back to evaluate how you can build an environment to support it, how can you build the collaboration, the professional development, and the resource allocation around that time, around the people, around the money, it didn't happen. And so they didn't trust the idea of another strategic plan. Yeah. But what we saw in a shift is the people that began to attend the meetings and engage in the conversations, and through our DLT and some of our other avenues that we're working through, people are starting to believe the process and understand it. And so by putting these 4 pillars in place, we forced that, because as Dr. Kincaid mentioned, they were initially just in one of those 4 as a category. And we said, wait a second, if this person's come up with this really excellent idea in this one area and there's not the supports and the foundation in place to take it off the ground, we're right back where we were before, right? Right back to that, laminated picture on the wall. So.
Discussion, but I just want to reiterate, can you go back to my triangle real quick? Just because one of the reasons why we included this in this presentation is that in the strategic roadmap, there's a priority around systems change and organizational health. And that you don't see that as a pillar in the strategic plan, because it's embedded and integral in the way that the system's going to work. And so this graphic, if you can, and I know you've seen it before, but we really have to pay attention to those arrows on the left side, that we have to build the process from the bottom up, from that student voice saying, I need a charismatic and engaging teacher with topics that I appreciate. And then the teacher has to work with colleagues to sense make that. And if we don't line up those structures and systems all the way through, we lose. I say all the time, we don't make any impact by collaborating at the district level. It's that DLT has
Very
to leave the DLT and then empower, and that's why the presentation last week with the ILEAD team, Dr. Dubiel, Dr. Pond, and Dr. Waller, they really reiterated that it's got to be about that engagement of the schools. When parents say they want connection to the system, parents are connected through their schools. That's how we build the bridges. And so the system has to corral all that amazing energy. Every school has to be able to tell their story in the context of the district story. And so it's really exciting to see that the work around school improvement teams and plans, those are systematized. They weren't prior to this last year, right? The DLT is a living, breathing entity. And this data keeps getting scrubbed because we keep asking people, now what do you think? Now what do you think? Now what do you think? So anyway, it's a good thing you got a deadline, because learning about the system has been really, really quite energizing for some. So anyway, I have to just take the opportunity because this is why systems don't make the changes. Because they stop at central office.
Right, and this is.
I think the other thing, though, that Dr. Kelgati has done as a leader is that there was missed opportunities for collaboration before. And I don't want to say you're forcing collaboration, but I think sometimes, and I see this in school districts, I see this in my corporate life, we're very afraid to let go of our thing because if we don't want somebody else to take it. And I think it takes leadership to say, if you don't let go and you don't let go and we don't make it our thing, we're never going anywhere. I have never seen collaboration like I have in this district in the last year. And I think that ability to be like, okay, my thing is safe and I can share it, but it's just human nature. That's not what we do. And I think that collaboration I have seen from HR to curriculum, to communication, to student services, to student safety, to Mr. Queen and I, we talked about this in our finance and facilities meeting. He said, nobody used to ever ask buildings and grounds. And I'm like, wait, what? I mean, how do you not ask buildings and grounds when that's literally the foundation of everything? That type of, I just got goosebumps, that type of collaboration has not been in this district in a very long time because it's just human nature to hold on to our thing and not want to share it. So I just want to say kudos to you for allowing and empowering the system to say, it's still your thing, but we have to all own it together, because I think that's a huge part of it. Your executive leadership team has to be willing to let go for that to happen.
But I'm gonna let you talk because I have
Thank
shared.
you, Jen.
Well, I just wanted to say every system has to be valued by every individual and every team. Every group has to be valued by the other. And that's why you can get collaboration. When you work as a team, that means that the individual on your side, to your left or to your right, values what you bring to the table, and the system would not work well without each and every individual bringing whatever they're bringing. So if it's at the building level, if it's at the district level, if it's the teachers or if it's administrators, everyone has to value what the other is bringing. And so when we have to make investments in our administrators, because at some point in the past, that system was ripped apart, we have to build it up and bring it back. And everyone around, everything that the administration does supports the buildings. We have to have all of that working together. There's not like one group of individuals who are more valued than another group. We're all working together. Go ahead, Jared.
So I always say if I walk into a room full of realists, I want to be the idealist. And if I walk in a room full of idealists, I want to be the realist. So there's just a piece that I want to add to all of this, just because I'm forever the social studies teacher and the historian. And so I need to make sure that this context is here. Having been involved either directly or indirectly for the last decade, I do want to pause and just remind a few lessons collectively as a community. Yep. There's been a lot of trauma over the last decade, and what started or where this started, you could say whatever you want, but I want to make sure we understand that some of the pieces we're able to accomplish are because we've invested. And when we were in a moment, and for those who were in this district back then when we weren't investing and what we were doing was cutting, I remember one of your predecessors go on down the line saying, there's nobody left to really cut. And what that says, too, is that we have to recognize what the system felt from us always being in reactive mode. And one of the fears that I have, and I'll just be open about this, is the historical context to make sure that that piece of the story is not lost. And it's important that it's not lost, because listen, I'm not trying to take away from all of the good work. Everything everyone has said is 100% true. However, let's be real. I hope this doesn't ever have to happen, right? But I dare us to see if we could do the same thing under those economic conditions. And I am going to tell you that, yes, I'm sure that we're all great here. But imagine that you're coming to work and suddenly we're talking about cutting 25% and asking you to do the same amount of work. It's not fun. And I know there's some people in the room who were here and it wasn't fun. And we are going to now have a Board of Education that will have a collective experience of about 7 years. So my challenge is, I have great faith in you, just so we're clear, but my challenge is don't lose the historical context piece and make sure that those lessons stick with the community. We're allowed to do great things when we're in good financial shape. If we're not in good financial shape, it's not as easy to do these things. And so it's imperative that we don't lose that part. I'm not saying that's why we're here. We still have to, you still have to, even as a coach, right? If I got talent, I got to figure out a way to still utilize that talent. But also, as a coach, I've had times where I just don't have the talent. And I know what their ceiling is, and I can get them to that point. But going beyond that, the investment matters, and I want to make sure that that piece is not lost, because I've worked with people up here who have all the great intentions in the world, but when they're told this is what you got, it's hard. It's not a fun story. And so the investment piece that's come from multiple levels in multiple fashions is what's paying off, and I appreciate that, and I just want to make sure that that piece is not lost in the discussion.
I feel like you were in our conversations at the as we were working this. Dr. Kincaid, you want to just wrap up, and then I think we should bring this to a close.
Absolutely. Jared, please know that that sentiment is truly part of every part of our planning process, because with all of the voices, we could have hundreds of priorities, and we are really mindful of not only the financial piece, but also the learning and implementation. Everything requires potential money, time, and investment. And that's a lens that we are looking through at every step, because what we don't want is to launch and then not be able to follow through with those accomplishments. So that is very much part of the decision-making process. So I hope that we continue to learn from our past, to shape, as Teresa mentioned, kind of what is the next chapter. There have been so many false starts that we really, truly want to make sure that we're providing the best opportunities for our students within the foundation and constructs of our district today. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving to 6.1, the superintendent report. Dr. Kelgati, if you could give us your report, please.
Absolutely. I just wanted to one more time reiterate our appreciation for those facilitating and leading this process. But most importantly, we want to really honor our students, our staff, our parents who've really showed up and showed out to make sure that we could really have a plan that represents their story and the story of this community. So I want to just thank everybody for that. On a more serious note, I want to reaffirm our district's unwavering commitment to providing a safe and secure learning environment for all our students. In times of uncertainty, when news headlines can spark fear, we hold firm to our shared values and recognize the importance of every student in our community. Our role remains steadfast. We are here to support them and uplift them, ensuring that they know that they are valued and protected. As a district, we are legally prohibited from collecting or maintaining any student's immigration records. Additionally, all student records are safeguarded under federal and state law, requiring a court order for disclosure. While the likelihood of an immigration officer visiting our schools is low, our district and building leaders have received guidance from ISB and our legal counsel on the proper procedure to follow. Only a criminal warrant signed by a judge would permit an ICE agent to enter a school. Even in such cases, our building leaders have been directed to partner, to contact the district immediately and to involve legal counsel to verify the warrant and secure the appropriate and proper handling, if it even gets to that. To further our support for our students and families, our staff have received a number of strategies to really strengthen the culture of welcome that we have for all of our students in our schools, and a sense of encouragement and safety in our schools, and especially for those who are experiencing and who may be experiencing fear and anxiety during this time. Above all, we want to reassure our students and our families that our students are places where they are safe and supported and able to focus on learning. And if you have received exciting note card this evening, board members, regarding our kindergarten turning 5 by 9/1/25 kindergarten new student registration. Another exciting example, and this is just a great example, without stating that we don't collect your status. This may create some fear for somebody, and so I think it's important that we're reemphasizing that that is not information we would collect at any one of our events. And so we look forward to, if your child is turning 5 or turning 5 this year, come to this event. Mr. Bell, thank you for your effort with this, and the communications team, thank you for your efforts to make this happen. Now I invite board members to add anything else, if you have anything else you want to share.
How many years are we away from the class of 40? We're not that far off, are we? Sorry, I didn't mean to make everybody feel old for a moment there.
You were being like Debbie Downer.
Not that far off, are we? Class of 40's coming up.
Kelly says she feels old. So.
No, because people are telling me, like, oh, I was born in 2012. I'm like, 2012? Like what?
3 more years? We got 3 more years to the class of 40.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. So almost a 3.
Yeah, look out.
Almost a pre-K.
Have fun with that, people.
Ms. Johnson, do you want to lead us out? Jen, do you want to lead us out? Okay.
After a rigorous audition process, 3 of our junior high students were selected to the All-Illinois Junior Band Festival. This is a competitive event as students were chosen from all over the state. Congratulations to Natalie DeVoe, flute from Trauber Junior High, Ellis Young with the bassoon at Trauber Junior High, and Owen DeCamp, percussion at Murphy Junior High. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Anna Marie, Director of Planning and Development, who was recently acknowledged as a Leader of Distinction Award in December with the District Administration Leadership Institute.
OHS English teacher and Reflector Yearbook Advisor Eva Tulak and her student publication staff earned a first place award from the American Scholastic Press Association for the 2023-2024 yearbook Shine Bright. Their hard work and dedication to journalistic excellence is represented by this award. Congratulations to Ms. Tulak and her student journalists for achieving this honor.
And moving over to wrestling, congratulations to Mia Navarez and Quinn Jansons of OEHS for winning the SPC championship in their respective weight classes. Congratulations also Jessica Stover for her second place finish and Ella Cooper for her third place finish. Additionally, congratulations to the OHS chess team for their SPC championship win.
The Prairie Point Elementary School Helping Hands Club recently made dog toys to be donated to local animal shelters. We are inspired by their efforts to make a positive impact on our community.
SD308 Special Olympics Wildcats. The Silver Team won regionals in basketball. Congratulations. Yay, they are advancing to the state championship in March. We look forward to continued success from the Wildcats. Congratulations to them and good luck. Speaking of basketball success stories, we also have one from OEHS alumnus Ray J. Dennis. Earlier this month, Ray J. signed a 2-way contract with the Indiana Pacers and Indiana Mad Ants of the NBA G League, and I think President Simulton, you were saying scored first buckets in NBA game?
Yes.
Is this, do we know if this is the first time someone from SD308 has scored in an NBA game, or we don't know? I don't know. That'd be good. There's a challenge for somebody out there. Challenge for somebody out there. Congratulations to Ray J. Dennis.
The Oswego East High School boys bowling team won their regional championship. This is the first regional championship victory for OEHS boys bowling history. Mitchell Rodenbostel won the individual title for the regional championship at sectionals, and Derek Zahorak punched his ticket to the state championship. Another OE celebration as the another celebration for the OEHS dance team took second place at AIHSA sectionals, qualifying them for their state competition. Congratulations and good luck at state.
Yay.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, moving on to our student board member reports.
Okay, so during our January 21st meeting, we focused on teacher wellness with a particular emphasis on mindfulness roles in supporting educators and students. We reviewed key points from various research articles and engaged in discussions about strategies to enhance emotional well-being in the classroom.
One article explored how mindfulness can improve teacher wellness and positively impact student outcome. Mindfulness was described as a state of mind and a practice enhancing emotional intelligence. When teachers practice mindfulness, they can better understand and manage their emotions, which allows them to model positive behavior for students. By doing so, teachers demonstrate to students that they care, creating stronger and more trusting relationships. The article also emphasized the importance of meditation as a valuable tool for developing mindfulness and maintaining emotional balance.
A key point discussed how participating mindfulness during moments of conflict can serve as an example for others, especially students. When teachers remain calm and mindful in challenging situations, they show students how to regulate emotions and handle conflicts constructively. This approach fosters a supportive and respectful classroom environment.
The meeting also addressed teachers' overwhelming demands daily, with up to 150 interactions in a single school day. The constant activity can lead to stress and burnout if not managed effectively. We discussed the need to recalibrate perceptions of students' behavior, particularly what is considered disrespectful, and shift the focus to understanding students' needs. By identifying what both teachers and students require to be in a good mental and emotional place, educators can create a more positive learning environment.
So another key theme was embedding mindfulness into daily routines for both teachers and students. This includes understanding one's own emotion, recognizing emotion of others, and acting on them in a thoughtful and constructive way. We considered questions such as, how can teachers develop emotional awareness and self-regulation? How can schools create spaces and opportunities for mindfulness practices? How can mindfulness become a shared practice in classrooms to improve relationships and learning outcomes? So today we had our SSAC meeting, which focused on students' rights and responsibilities. The coalition was invited to provide additional student perspective, and we reviewed the draft for 2025 to 2026 school year student right and responsibility document. We focused on two specific areas, which were attendance and enrollment and cell phone electronic device access. And these were some of the themes that rose from the conversation. So we'll start with attendance data. So the first question that we asked was, in what ways do you think attendance is affected by a relationship between teachers and students? And some of the answers that were brought up were, students sometimes don't come to class when there is no relationship with their teacher. And so then we kind of built that to the idea of perception. So for teacher, we talked about how do the teacher build a relationship with students when they're absent. And then for the student's perspective, it's, I don't show up because I don't have that relationship with the teacher. So how can this communication gap be filled? Another thing that we wrote was, are teachers encouraging students to come when parents don't emphasize attendance? Because not all families are the same and not all parents are the same. So we said, are classes engaging enough where students want to come regardless of outside factors as well? So we kind of talked in depth about teachers emphasizing coming to school, because I know there's some days where teachers are like, you know, we have nothing to do in class, so whether you come or not, it really doesn't matter to me. And you also have parents at home that really don't care whether their student shows up or not. So how do we encourage in the classroom and outside to promote attendance for students?
The second question we talked about are, what are some strategies do you think could help encourage better attendance among students? Communication responses we got were, when teacher or administration see chronic absences and tardies from students, find out what is going on with the student to find out if there is support needed. The school can possibly provide resources and gain insight as to why the student is missing school. Also, some extra information that we added was how teachers can communicate expectations with their students and kind of just find that middle ground of like what we expect, what the teachers expect, and just having a better bond. Something else is, are there multiple ways to communicate absences to accommodate all families? Example that I like that someone talked was, what if someone wanted a mental health day because they woke up and just wasn't feeling it? They will obviously need to grab their parent to go like sign them out, but what if the parent isn't there in the morning? Or what if they're tired and they know they had a long day and they feel sad like waking the parent up? So we was thinking, is there multiple ways instead of calling in and saying, hey, my daughter or my son isn't going to be here today, and just finding different ways like having an online form or just sending a quick message instead of just always calling in. And then lastly is something that I thought was interesting is potential change in the schedule if it could increase attendance. Another point that they made out was making block schedules, because if like you have PE at first period in the morning at 7:20, like not everyone wants to go there and get sweaty. So what if changing block schedules would make people more, not excited, but more willing to go to school if they know that it's not just going to be a repeat every single day.
So our next topic was the cell phone policy. So the first question is, how could a technology policy that restricts device use during class enhance your learning experience? In what ways may it negatively impact you? So some of the responses were, not having phones can improve in-class engagement. In some classes, expectations are set for no phones, and it's respected when it's clear. And then our next question was, what strategies do you think could help balance your device usage while still being engaged in class? Some people brought up warm-ups, brain breaks, team building time, and time to get organized so that they are present. Some other conversation that was brought up is that how the policy is very individualistic, because some students don't struggle with multitasking and having that downtime on their phone and still understanding what's being taught. But then you also have another majority of students that can't be able to use their phone in class and pay attention to what the teacher is talking about. And something that I brought up again, and I think I've brought it up so many times, was that self-efficacy, believing in yourself, that 39%. I brought up how sometimes that can be brought on because a student is using their phone in class. So maybe it's not that they don't believe that they can't do it, but because they weren't paying attention, sometimes they feel as like they're lost or they're kind of held back. That's the same thing for attendance. If you're not attending class regularly and you feel like you're falling behind, you might not believe that what the teacher's about to give you after 5 days of being absent, that you can tackle that. And so then that's when you're like, I really don't believe in myself. So those were some conversations that were brought up today, and kind of meeting that middle ground of whether to make this whole policy for everyone or for just specific students. And we were reading through the draft, and we were just basically having an open conversation about it, which was really healthy and was really fun to have the coalition with us. So yeah.
Overall, the January 21st meeting highlighted the importance of mindfulness as a tool to enhance teachers' wellness, improve emotional intelligence, and create a balanced classroom atmosphere. By incorporating mindfulness practices, educators can better manage the demands of their roles and contribute to the well-being and success of their students. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
So just a point of clarification, the data that you're going over, just to confirm, is a response to the teacher and the student survey that we did, correct? I just want to make sure that everybody understands where you got the data from.
Wait, which specific data? Like what we talked about today?
Not today, just some of the answers that you were just reporting out.
Oh, we got it from today's meeting. like
Yeah,
the one that we talked about today.
So
these
part
were
of it was from student services, some of the student services data, and as well as the data that we received. They surveyed earlier this year or last year, I can't remember which one. They surveyed the students, and then they also surveyed the teachers. And based on disaggregating that data is where they're analyzing it right now. And then we had a
Yes.
conversation today with student services in regards to, I'll let Jeremy give a little tidbit on that.
Yeah, I would just highlight that even last week's, right? You guys were really kind of initiating that, not initiating, but engaging in that YPAR process where you were reading technical research articles that would support both the connection between the student and the teacher relationship, but also what are aspects that staff can do to improve their overall well-being, right? And how can you parallel that to students' overall well-being? And what does that reciprocal relationship look like? Those were some really highly technical, like research-based articles. There was 4 different articles. And so that conversation was really powerful, just to step back and watch their minds work, right? And so I give you guys kudos because those were challenging. Those were definitely impactful. And then to carry that work over even in today's conversations. You know, we put some attendance data out there for you guys that was specific to just the first semester's worth from OH and OE, and kind of broke it down and disaggregated some of that and made it look like, what would this look like for one in particular student? We also talked about, which I thought was interesting, is had them pick up their phones and see how many pickups they had that day or today. And so you can do that through the settings. We had anywhere from 114 to 263 pickups on a single phone in a given day. And so just those engagement opportunities to get them to understand that there's power in technology, but there's also, conversely, right, there's that lack of engagement when you have it in front of you. So good job, guys.
Great job.
Great job.
Oh, yay, thank you.
We're moving on to our consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Oh, we
Would-
didn't do,
would
we didn't
board
do board
comments?
member comments.
Sorry.
Anybody, okay.
I'm moving
I'll-
on because.
I know, well, hey.
Go on.
No,
Board
I
member
just want to bring up,
comments.
one thing. Last week, I had the chance to go to Multicultural Night over at Boulder Hill. First of all, as soon as you walked in the door, the food smell was amazing. But congrats to the PTA, the teachers, the parents, the admin, organizations, and students for doing an amazing job. Honestly, you walk in the door, you get hit with the smell of food, and there was dancing, singing, laughing, food, and community, emphasis on community, in what was a really fun learning environment. And I bring all this up because I know that there's going to be several multicultural nights in several of the schools across the district. I would like to attend as many of those as possible. But I think now more than ever, based on especially Dr. Kelgadi's statement, we really need to support events like this. And we need to make sure that our students get exposed to cultures other than their own. Regardless of anything else, we are part of a global community. And it's critical to know and understand our diverse cultures. So if you see one on the calendar, try to go if you can. I seriously, there were children there up on stage dancing, singing in multiple languages. It was a good time. That was it.
How many languages do we have in our school district? Dr. 50? Yeah. How many, Dr.
It's close to 80.
Yeah.
It's close to 80.
I just have 2 quick pieces. Number one, sorry, ever the social studies teacher. Don't forget that every single year, right? Every single year there's at least one election. And hey, we get the honor of this odd year of having 2 if you are in Oswego or Aurora, February 25th and April 1st. So just always want to make sure people are aware that there are multiple opportunities to have your say out there. In fact, we just did a lesson in my class today about the local election voting rate compared to the national voting rate today. The last piece that I want to make sure that's out there is there's a district not far from here that's taken the plunge for next year. So I think in some ways a lot of districts, especially large unit districts, eyes will be on them to see how this goes. But in Naperville 203, they have announced that they are starting. They're going with the research, and they are starting elementary in the early slot, and they're putting high school in the later slot. And they actually cut the time on the high school day and increase the time on the elementary day. I am not saying, oh, everybody should. What I am saying is, hey, they're going to do it. All eyes on them, and let's see how it goes.
Do they use their own? Do they have their own bus?
I've been hoping
Yeah.
for it for years.
Just
Yeah.
like,
Well, I
just like us.
Yeah. So we'll see if they can pull it off. I will tell you that I don't want to mention any pages in that community, but boy, are they getting quite the feedback from all angles. And if you got some popcorn and you have
Don't we
access,
all?
then get it out.
But the reality is too, and we've talked about it for years, and the research does back this, that it works. We have a transportation challenge in this district, and that will continue to be what drives, and our resources and our transportation, what drives those decisions. So if somehow we could miraculously solve those issues, I think it would be a little bit easier. But I think every year our admin, it's on the top of their mind.
I think to your point too, it'll be interesting because obviously they talked about how they're going to overcome their transportation issues, but that's no guarantee until you actually are in the midst of actually doing it. And so we'll see. Yeah.
Madam President, I just want to bid my farewell. I apologize.
Safe travels.
Do you need one for the roads? Okay.
Feel better.
I have a statement, yeah. I just wanted to add just a statement. I know that with the new administration in Washington, I feel it pertinent to recognize, as Dr. Calgatti has also recognized, that there are those in our schools and community or others in our lives who might be feeling at best uncertain and at worst fearful. So I appreciate Dr. Calgatti's message to staff about how to work with students who need support and need to feel safe, and how to respond if needed in the face of ICE knocking on doors and the beginning efforts in the country in this area. Additionally, I want to thank ISBE for doing their part on issuing guidance to districts on the rights and responsibilities of students. This is not the case in all states. Other states, unfortunately, are doing more harm to criminalize immigrant communities, and we are doing, I think, our best to value them. So I don't think we all know yet what is to come in regard to the field of education with the other proposals on the table in Washington, such as eliminating the Department of Ed. But I feel certain that we will be working together on a variety of issues in the coming years. And I think by leaning into our communities and our policy in 308 on equity and rightful presence, I think we'll have a clear, albeit at times maybe difficult, path forward. There's a lot I could say about this week, and I don't need to say it all now, but the message I want the community to hear is that we are here as a board, and we are focused right now on making sure our students have access to a quality education as always, that they feel safe and secure, and I trust that we as a board and community will respond as needed and when needed to make sure that happens. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
I just wanted to say that earlier in January was World Religion Day, and it's an opportunity for people to talk about and at least recognize and understand other religions. And I bring that up because today is National, or International, I should say, Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I think it's just a good opportunity for all of us to practice tolerance and understand that our viewpoint may not be the only viewpoint in our community. And I had the opportunity to meet with a couple of our Jewish students today and really reflect with them. And I think it's really important that we understand that many people in our community are feeling vulnerable right now, especially with what's going on in the Middle East and this ceasefire and so forth. So I just wanted to bring that to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Now, 7.1, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 7.1 minutes from the Board of Education meeting on January 13th, 2025, open and closed sessions. 7.2 to acknowledge the FOIA requests received by the district, and 7.3 to approve the field trips for overnight and or over 200 miles.
Second.
Are there any questions on the consent agenda? Hold on. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? No? All right.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Obafemi, the financial statement. Oh, I'm sorry. Heather, you want to do that? Or, no, you're good? Okay, I'll do it. Okay.
Thank you,
If
Madam
we could have
President.
your financial statement, please.
Thank you, Madam President.
Wait a second. Did we skip over field trips?
No?
No, we just okayed them. We just voted on those.
With the consent agenda.
Oh,
Yep.
it's, okay, can I just say one, I have a question. So we all know accountability is only succeeds if a person that is accountable knows. So I appreciate the heads up on all those for over the summer and all of the continuing things that the students are involved in and however their seasons may last. But who is responsible for, say, a building's field trips?
So it depends on the type of field trip.
Okay.
The athletic base, which is a significant portion of tonight's, and especially the memo, because we're seeing actually our regional and state.
They're all doing so well.
Not only are they doing so well, but they seem to be getting further and further away. So we really wanted to be cognizant of both the timelines for our athletes and then also the timelines for our collectiveness. But our athletics go through our athletic director and our principals, and then some of our activities, which also include some of the IHSA curricular and after school, will go through either our assistant athletic director or our assistant principal of buildings and operation, so at the high school. Then everything goes through the principal. At the junior highs, things go through the principal. So there is building approval and vetting before it even comes to then the district office, before it even comes to you. And then at the district office, those go through either the schools director or myself, and also Mr. Arnson as the district athletic director.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Obafemi, your
Thank you.
financial statements, please.
So I've actually gotten to a point where I have enough data to start providing a more detailed budget report. Because what I was trying to do, I was trying to make sure I've been here for at least a year. So I have the data that I needed to be able to do variances and comparison. And the package that you see in this month's budget, which is, the beginning of the calendar year, will be what we'll respect moving forward. So what we have in the treasurer's report is actually the fund balance that the district has for the month of December. So on December 31st, we have a total amount of $124.5 million in fund balance, broken down by the different funds. Now, if you look at the capital projects, you see in November, we ended the year with a shortfall of $340,961, and then we spend an additional $461,341, which leaves us with a shortfall of $746. What I would like to point out is, rest assured, what that is, the funds is actually available. If you remember back in February of 2022, the board issued $17 million in DSEB money in the working cash. And you will see later on the agenda, we are transferring $7 million of that to cover the work that is being done. So once the transfer of $7 million is approved tonight, in the resolution that is attached below, that will take care of that. So the other document I would like to share is the investment report. And as of the date this was printed on the 22nd of January, we have investment of 108 million point four in investments. So we're in good shape. Now the other thing that I wanted to show, it's an all funds month to date in the budget expenditure. So what I've tried to do is compare where we were a year ago in December to where we are in
Right.
this month. And what you will see is that we are actually right on track. There's no outliers here. If you look at it current year month to date, we are at a deficit of 11.3. What that is has to do with timing, because we get the majority of our revenue, especially as it relates to local funds. We get it in June and then in September. So this is in line with what we've always done as far as the variance. And the next document that I want to share also lays out the revenue comparison. So if you look at the revenue, at the end of December of 2024, we are projecting a year-end fund balance of 33%, which puts us in good stead. And year-to-date revenue, what we actually have in actual amount is 47.61. What we're projected is 47.59. So we're right on. So if you look at the other ones too, same thing with, that's the total revenue, local revenue, and state revenue, we're right on track to be where we hope to be at the end of December.
First of all, I just am so happy. I want to thank you. This is a variance report. I've been begging for this for years. We received a version of this, which was month over month, which people don't understand that month for month for school finance and school budgets is not helpful, because lots of things can happen in a month. What we really have needed to look at is where we were from last year and why things have changed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Being able to say, oh, we have an increase of $1.1 million from the state, but a decrease in our local sources, that is the information that a Board of Education needs to understand, and understand why we may not be able to do something else, or why we may be able to hire some directors to help with a lot of the workload that's going on. But what I'm just very grateful for is that when we are looking at this is really the bird's eye view that the board needs, not the details that you and your team work on a daily basis. This has been the first finance report that I've been like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then thank you for those of us that learn visually of providing the correlating graphs and stuff. The only further thing that I would ask is that if we could make this available on our website,
Absolutely.
it would be
Absolutely.
really helpful. And I think you could also get the community to understand at a very high level to the difference in where we are. Granted, the conclusion is what people are looking for. Well, if we're over in here and under in here, but we're still on track, that's really critical. So I just want to thank you. This is really, really big deal, and I think it's just much more digestible than what we've had in the past. So thank you very much.
Thank you. This will be part of the financial package for board meetings moving forward every month.
And I just want to echo that. And one thing that I just want to put in as perspective is, I myself in 2015, I ran on transparency, right? And I'm not saying like we have reached the mountain or whatever, but I would say this to people: check out some other school districts, and then compare where we're at on a transparency level. And like, listen, this goes back to you invest properly, you can do the things you need to do, right? But I'm telling you, like, I've seen some things out there that are like And I'm not saying that should make what we do here acceptable. That's not my point. But I do think, like, I'm a firm believer, if you see something in multiple places, you got to ask questions about that system that's in place, right? And so, hey, listen, I have seen, like I said, I've seen districts that are way less transparent than this one. In fact, I would argue the community very much, many times, will say, let's throw it out here and let's have this debate. It's just a matter of whether people want to enter the arena and when they want to enter the arena. And listen, people are busy. I get it. It's not like you can sit and watch every single taxing body in a local area, because Illinois loves to have many of them. But at the same time, you know, I think it's good to enter the arena with a lot of questions. That's great. That's healthy. That's a good thing. But sometimes maybe reserve the claims until after you've had a few of the questions answered, because we're pretty transparent here compared to many other districts. And actually, and listen, part of that transparency, real quick, sorry, is the media. We are lucky that we have a media here that will report on us. Now, do I wish they'd sometimes report on some of the things that other districts are doing also, as I've just stated? Sure, right, in a comparison state. But honestly, I applaud that we have media here, because it does help us as community members, as a community, to make sure that we're keeping an eye on things. And there should be watchdogs out there, and people should not just be a rubber stamp and all those things. So all those are contributing factors. Thank you for all you do, and yeah, we got to continue the education piece, because we don't teach how local governance works. That's not something in a curriculum that you're going to find anywhere. So thank you to all who play a part.
Well, you know, last year, and the last couple of years, I should say, we've talked a lot about inflation and how that affects our school budget. And but we never had a way to really show it. And I know the other place that inflation hurts us is in our capital projects. When cost of materials and cost of labor goes up, our projects get pushed down because we just can't meet the need. And so when you're showing where our operating funds are, where I know there's capital projects in here, operations and maintenance, it's easier to go, wow, they went up $1 million. $1 million is one of our roofing projects or one of our HVAC projects.
Easily.
When that's just the cost of goods and labor going up, I'm using that as an example, not that that's what's represented here. It makes it much more easy for the board to be like, oh, well, that's why we can't do this project at a specific school, and how do we reorganize our priorities? So I just feel like this is so incredibly digestible, and thank you. I know we've pushed you, you know, at finance and facilities meetings and so forth, but this is a great place to, and then to be able to do this month over month and keep looking back and be able to see what has changed is very helpful. So I applaud you and your team for this.
Thank you. So then we have the expenditure, which mirrors, the dashboard mirrors that of the revenue. Yep. Then we've included a memo too on CPI. And CPI is very important to how we get our revenue. We get 43% of our revenue from property taxes. And the CPI that will actually govern our 2024 levy came out on the 15th of January, which was last week. And that CPI was the December CPI. And the CPI was 2.9, which is actually 10 basis points higher than what I projected. So, yeah. So that was why I included that in the financial package that shows that. So when we come in December and to talk about the levy, that will be what we use. And as part of that next month board meeting, I will be presenting the 5-year financial projection, since we know what the CPI is now, from 2025 all the way to 2030. So that will be presented.
And again, going back to what I said, not all boards do that. Not all boards are asking for 5-year projections. I applaud everybody involved in doing those things. And when we were at IASB, the III piece, one of the questions I sat in one of the finance pieces, and I said, I don't understand why every board doesn't do a 5-year projection with these various scenarios that we do. And like, I had some pretty respectable people in there who are finance people, and they're like, good question, right? Like, it is it is best practice to do it. And a lot of times it really simply boils down to, does the board even know, number one? Number two, like, what are your resources to do that? Like your time and people that you have and all those things. So thank you, because like I said, I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying we've solved everything. I'm just saying system-wide, we're showing quite a bit.
Thank you. The next.
Could you also, this memo from Mrs. Sitar to you, I think, and you to Dr. Kelgati, I think it's very important for the public to see as well that, for instance, for all of our all of our fees last year, we collected 87% of fees. I think it's important for the community to understand that we have to make up that difference when we're not collecting fees. And I know that for this school year, it's at 68. That will go up as the year goes on.
We
But
hope.
again, every
We
year
hope.
when we're only collecting 87% of what we need, that has to come from somewhere, and that compounds over time. So if those things could be on the website, I think it would be
We
excellent.
will put, we promise, we'll start tomorrow, moving forward. We'll post the financial on the finance website.
Thank you.
Every month
So
at the end of every board meeting.
So the 68 versus 87 is kind of an apples to apples, so we're behind quite a bit from where we were the same time last year. So it might grow, but you'll probably also see that 87% grow as well. I guess if we did a through end of year, but this, I wanted to see an apples to apples, and this, it represents it, so it's,
Well, we know it
Yeah.
hasn't been 100% any year.
well, yeah, it's almost 20%
Yeah.
less than, so.
So then I think the last document is the list of activity fees, which are money that's raised by different schools and account that is also affiliated with the schools. That's the balance they had at the time of the financial closing here. Any questions, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then
Okay. And then,
Then the
Mr.
next thing
Yep.
is, which I mentioned earlier, back in February of 2022, the board uses DSEP, is debt extension base, to issue a working cash bond. And the bond was about $17 million. The purpose of the bond is to do some capital projects. And we started doing those. Actually, we started doing those in earnest in 2003. We've done some RT rooftop units. We've done some roofing, and I'll pass it on to Mr. Quinn.
So we've done a lot of projects, and I sat before this board and presented those projects, the track project, their RTU projects, some upgrading of BAS systems. The four that he's labeled here with the parking lots and the roofs and the BAS systems and the boilers and chillers, those are our major ones that we have to attack, and those are all well over $1 million. But if we don't take care of those, we don't host schools. So those are very important to us, and we like these funds to move through there and get these projects completed.
So the way, thank you, Mr. Quinn. The way the process works is by school code, the board has to approve the money is in working cash. We can't spend in working cash. It has to be abated, which is state code for transfer. So we have to transfer from working cash to the capital project fund in order for us to be able to keep paying for those projects. And as I mentioned earlier, we've spent more, but we had the money. We included in the budget, but we couldn't do the accounting necessary until we have the resolution approved in the public meeting.
After we move the $7 million, how much will be left? Will that be the total amount?
No, I think we have about $4 million.
Okay, and
So,
then,
but I need to check that but I think it's about $4 million.
and what's the timeline on having
We
to
have to
spend
spend
it?
it all
Before when? Before we
by
get
summer of
penalized?
2025.
2025?
Yes, this summer. Now, if we don't spend it all, there's something called arbitrage rebate, which it's actually a good thing in that we earn an interest over the money. If we earn beyond a certain amount of interest, we have to pay it back to the IRS because it's a non-taxable bond. But it's not necessarily a bad thing because we making money off of that money that we have invested.
Okay. Thank you. All right, 9.1 action item, approval of school year calendars. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the 2025-26 and the 2026-27 school year calendar as presented.
Second.
I'm the second.
Ms. Van Meth,
Aye.
Dr. Maria,
Aye.
Mr. Saron,
Aye.
Ms. Simulton,
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Ploger.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 9.2, approval of personnel report. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the personnel report as discussed and presented.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Dr. Maria,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Ploger,
Aye.
Ms. Simulton,
Aye.
Mr. Saron,
Aye.
Ms. Van Meth.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. And 10.1, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.